Hey friends, Festival of the Lost is back and it features 3 weapons this time. We have a new submachine gun, kinetic slot lightweight called Gunburn, Arcane Embrace, which is a returning double shot heavy burst shotgun, it's arc, and then Hush Whisper, which is a new strand precision frame bow, which is currently bugged to not even be doing precision frame damage. I'm very disappointed that we didn't get the rest of the festival weapons, including Macabre and the Braytech Werewolf, which is a best in slot for auto rifles. So a little strange that we can't even get the legacy versions of that. But if you did want to farm these weapons, I actually recommend playing Red Rumble. I don't think it's a good PvP mode, but for the first time in a long time, I'm kind of getting that like Gambit itch of PvEVP, where you can win a match with, I kid you not a single kill on the board if you know how to finesse the headless one. You could also do Altars of Sorrow, but I've heard that it's soft locking. It might be fixed now, and it's a 6-player activity, which is certainly better than the Lost sectors of past Festival of the Lost. But you could also grab a fire team of 6 in Red Rumble and just play for fun. And I think that would probably be the superior farm for this method. You can have as fast as 2-minute games if one player collects while everybody else is just having fun. I finally hit 550, so I can stop messing with my Postmaster now, and oh my gosh, it's so much better feeling playing this game now, not doing any inventory management. The videos you can expect from me in the future are going through this Rumble game mode in different fun ways. Maybe I'm farming like Hawkmoon off the headless one and using that. That's like a simple idea. But I got a recommendation from my friends that is like a PvE build that can beat the PvP players, and I'm trying to push that to its absolute limit and win a Rumble match with 0 kills. It's going to take a little bit to grind that out, but I think I can do it, so that's going to be a video you get in the future. Then I'm going to review the Gunburn, the bow, and the shotgun in PvP against my better judgment, so look forward to those videos. Now I'm going to talk about the rolls. I'm going to try to make it through this in one take, starting with the Gunburn submachine gun, which deals kinetic damage and is a lightweight frame, which boosts its movement speed and sprint speed. And that's the theme of this gun since its origin trait is Search Party, which gives you more aim down sight speed and movement speed when no allies are nearby, which is thematic since the game mode featured for Halloween is Rumble, so therefore that movement speed bonus is always active. However, if you compare Gunburn to Multimach, you'll notice that Multimach is superior in every single stat, most importantly zoom, having 15 zoom compared to Gunburn's 14, which is very noticeable, at the cost of having 8 less airborne effectiveness, Multimach having 12, and Gunburn having 20. Now a quick rant on airborne effectiveness. On controller, you're probably already running a build like Peacekeepers, which is going to give you high enough AE where it's consistent. Whereas if you didn't do any AE on both of these weapons, they're going to be nearly identical to the point where you're probably not taking a jumping duel and hitting yellow numbers with either. Then Gunburn has such low stats that I can never justify losing accurized rounds in favor of extended mag or steady rounds, where I could recommend that on Multimach, so it's essentially the same weapon. Although you could say that Lone Wolf could make it unique, I'm going to argue that even with Lone Wolf, Multimach is just the superior weapon, since Rangefinder does exist, and you can use that with kinetic tremors to have an artificially farther kill distance that still keeps up with hand cannons in their intended range, which opens up the option to run a shotgun and not feel like you're too locked to a specific range in PvP. Otherwise, you would run something like Shayura's Wrath to get that same effect. Now, I still do recommend target lock on the other column because it does make your TTK go from 0.73 to a raw 0.67, especially when it's enhanced. And that's fantastic. However, if you go a high weapon stat, you can still keep the 0.67, but then have the buffer of kinetic tremors at a distance. Multimach is just better. So then what does Gunburn do unique? We talked about the AE. Yeah, it's unique, but it's not good enough to justify. Bewildering Burst is really unique and not that good, but it's really unique. So it's a kill perk on this left column. Get a kill, and then your next bullet will send a grenade above the opponent's head that blinds them. So how I recommend you use this is when you're about to take that second duel with the perk, just jiggle peek, put a single bullet in, and then wait behind cover for an extra second to guarantee that that blinding nade hits. If you just took the duel outright, there's a chance you lose it before the opponent is blind, or they're a controller player and you're just going to get beamed anyway. But if you didn't want to take this perk, yeah, Lone Wolf's going to feel good, but if you want a competitive SMG, just use Multi-Mock. Threat Detector is an information perk, except Hunter's smoke grenades, for whatever reason, remove this from the HUD, so I like the perk a little bit less since I mainly fight against smoke hunters. Pugilist could be a recommendation, since I am going to recommend the Binary Orbit perk at some point on the right column, and if you're using this with Prismatic Titan, you can just have more melee abilities, which are your bread and butter. Let's quickly talk about Binary Orbit since that's what I recommend with Pugilist. This perk is like Harmony, except it works for abilities too, not just weapon kills. So for example, since this is in the kinetic slots, a knockout melee on Titan, since it counts as arc abilities, gives you a 25% damage boost, which is more than Harmony. So you could also be using Cloud Strike and Prismatic Titan, and this would be a solid setup. Arguably better than Multi-Mock in some ways if you have the right build. I've also seen a lot of feedback fence Titans, so maybe this is up your alley. I still do recommend Bewildering Burst as the unique perk in both PvE and PvP. I like Target Lock because it gives you a faster time to kill without having to sacrifice the health stat to do so, not to mention it just helps the forgiveness of the weapon overall. In PvE though, I think you're just going to use Multi-Mock anyway, since it gets attrition orbs and still has kinetic tremors. You could argue that maybe you go like a pseudo Monte Carlo on Gunburn where you have Pugilist and Wellspring at the same time, but I'm going to argue again that you would probably just be better off using attrition orbs on Multi-Mock and then using your boot armor mods to supplement getting those abilities back. But maybe in PvP, this could just be a Monte Carlo style weapon when you want to use a different exotic. Like I might really like this on, I don't know, Shadebinder to have more Penumbral Blast, or Prism Warlock to have more freeze melees, you know. As for the PvE recommendation again, maybe Bewildering Burst with Ancillary Ordnance and some rockets for getting any of the verbs attached to your opponents, killing them before it. I don't know. I really don't know. Did I cover everything here? I think I did. Multi-Mock's better. That's the summary. The next weapon is Arcane Embrace Shotgun. This is Cope right here. You can always get Ganora's Axe from Iron Banner at any point in the year if you just want to have something that is decent all year round without having this gather dust in your vault. So Ganora can get auto-loading holster and Vorpal, which isn't spectacular, but if there is a PvE encounter in the future where you need an arc slug that does good enough, you can just reobtain this for that season for that farm. Where Arcane Embrace showed up, I believe, was the Spire of the Watcher dungeon when you're shooting that Harpy boss's eyes, and since this is a double fire slug, it was faster at taking out the eyes for a solo completion. That being said, I still don't really recommend keeping this in your vault unless you know exactly what you're doing as an endgame player. The roll I recommend is 4 times the charm with all of the perks together because I want to save bullet space. Precision Instrument, Surrounded, and Aggregate Charge. These all have different situations where it might be superior. And then, as an added bonus, not strictly necessary at all, maybe Dual Loader, maybe Grave Robber, if ammo isn't a problem on the activity that you're running. I do also want to mention that you can get really clever with Bolt Shot, except the old version of this weapon has Air Trigger, which is superior for this Bolt Shot playstyle. So although it shoots 2 bullets per burst, it only reloads a single bullet, which means if you're running a shotgun setup, like maybe no backup plans, and you want to run double special, maybe something with Discord, you can have an ad clear shotgun on both of your slots, which is pretty cool. Then you could also run Tractor Cannon or Acreus and have a triple shotgun setup, which could be fun. So if you think that sounds fun, maybe keep a roll with Bolt Shot. For PvP, you would probably just go Lone Wolf and Surrounded, and you have to learn to swap the weapon during the first shot of the burst to cancel the burst, or sprint into it to cancel the burst. And Surrounded will one-tap it, which is sort of like having double the amount of slug ammo. Except, if we're comparing apples to apples, Sojourner's Tale with Discord is probably better for maintaining ammo since the requirement is just get a primary weapon kill. Next up, we're going to talk about the Hushed Whisper Bow, which does have some interesting combos. What I think makes it unique is I'm thinking a controller player who mains Prism Hunter who wants to use the Slice perk to go invisible with Flawless Execution. Otherwise, this is one where you realistically can get very high AE with Lone Wolf to the point where it will be consistent on controller. Although if you're going to use Archer's Gambit, there is a little trick you can do where you release aim down sights at the last possible second, but still maintain the accuracy of aim down sights, so it's easy to proc this perk. Even considering that, I still only recommend going for Archer's Gambit if you're going to use Radiant Dance Machines, which could have a nice synergy with Slice. Otherwise, Successful Warm-Up is really good. I like it on controller better, but if I was playing MNK, this bow wouldn't even be a consideration because it does not have the Hipfire Grip perk on that first column. As for the right-hand column, what to recommend, I really don't know. Collective Action could be used with Tangles to maybe get a better headshot body shot combo or just kill with the Tangle outright. Aggregate Charge could make sense with Slice since it's just free damage. I guess Precision Instrument's free damage, but maybe not enough because there could be a situation in PvP where you hit them with the Smoke and Slice and this just does better. Or maybe Explosive Head so that you can flinch them off of you if you're using like a swap build or something where you want to slice them into a kill clip weapon or something like that and still maybe win the duel. That's about all I have off the top of my head. I'm going to double check my notes right here. Feel free to pause and read this if you don't think I explained everything good enough in voice.